last month or two, I have bought a number of books. I realized how depleted my physical book selection had become over the years. So what I've done is chose a few that I wanted to get. Let me push that in a little bit. This was one I think was suggested by Sandy Hester. Don't quote me though. But I've been wanting to do more plein air, especially now that it is so nice outside here. And there are so many locations I could go. But anyway, I really like this one. I had this in another video, but in fact, I had some of these in other videos that were short and they were combined with an opening, whether it be Temu or Amazon, or so I wanted to go through these because if you're like me, books. I don't have to say anything more, just books. This one, I'm pretty sure I got on Amazon, but I love it. It is a beautiful book. I'm looking at the copyright here because all of these are not new. This one is a 2009. Make sure I have that in frame. And it covers what you would expect, the equipment and what you need, but there are a wide variety of styles in it. So whatever your style is, there'll be something. This I just thought was beautiful. This one is by Daniel Pinkham. Well, I'm gonna need to get some books on because I love this. It's 14 by 11, and you wouldn't, looking at it, I thought it would be much larger than that, which is the case a lot of times for me. But anyway, it goes into what you need to have. Now, this one primarily covers painting with paints. It does not include any other mediums. It, of course, has color theory and those type of things that you would expect. I love this one down here too. I love that one. Just the simplicity of it, and that's a John Constable. There we go. But it's just, I find it an inspirational type book. It does cover composition. This is another one that I loved in it by Peter Adams, and it is 16 by 12, oil on panel. So, but anyway, this one just for the eye candy to me was just amazing. Let me look at that. And these were done plein air, so which means in case somebody's here that isn't an artist, plein air is just, it means you're painting outside. So just a fancy way to say it. This one's by Edgar Payne. I have wanted to get his book on composition, but it's out of print and it's really pricey to buy even a used copy. So, but I did find it on my state library in ebook format, which I know isn't the same, but you know, it does give me access to it. But I find that beautiful. Just the brush strokes and just the use of color and But anyway, there's that one. Love it. This one, again, is another plein air book. And I believe I also got this one from Amazon. I'm looking up the, yes, copyright 2022. This one thing I loved about it is it covers different mediums, and it covers different artists and how they use those mediums doing plein air. You know, here's acrylic, here's gouache, watercolor. There's some more back here. Yeah, it gives the supplies that they take with them. Yeah, I love seeing things like that. How to find your best composition and location and what to look for. Limited palette, but again, it's a beautiful book. The thing I appreciated the most about this book was that it went through different mediums, so that and I know a lot of us don't use just one medium. So you've got using paint, pastel. It is soft pastel, but still has pastel. And then it talks about taking your work back to the studio. I don't know how I feel about working on it in the studio. There's a debate in the plein air community as to whether you should or not. It should all be done outside. I really don't have an opinion on it. That one was great. This one, Maud Lewis, I knew very little about her, and I've had this in another video before too, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. This is a copyright, doesn't say. But anyway, she is a painter from Nova Scotia who is a folk artist, and she lived in very, very poor financial circumstances during her adult life. And her use of paint and just how she was just so prolific is amazing to me. The house that her and her husband lived in, I tried to find the measurement of it, just skimming through, and I didn't find it. I know it's in here because I've read this cover to cover, but I thought of it as like what today we would consider a tiny house. The bottom was all one room. The bottom was all one room with kitchen, and there was an outhouse. There was no indoor bathroom, and then there was a loft upstairs for them to sleep. I found it really interesting. That's not what I paid for it, by the way. Overcoming diversity. She had crippling arthritis and was hunched over, could barely walk, but yes, she was so prolific and just optimistic, and she sounds like an incredible human being. The next one is How I Paint, Secrets of a Sunday Painter. I got this one and this one, I'm pretty sure, through Thrift Books, which is a used book site. I do have an affiliate link in my description if you're interested in going there. But this guy, sorry, I'm making strange noises. This is copyright 2000. The work in here, I love this. I know I have seen this somewhere before. I can't remember where. It may have been just in an art magazine or something, but I think that's just lovely. It covers doing thumbnails, figuring out your composition, Here's more about portraiture. There's quite a bit on portraiture of what angles to use and how to figure things out. This does not show anything, but I'll put my hand there just to get rid of any question. But the use of, it's just a very thin, simple portrait that I'm in awe of. What do I have this bookmark for? Oh, this gives you the steps, quote unquote, to go through. Thumbnail, drawing, imprimatura, underpainting, and then color to do the painting. Sorry, I'm just enthralled with that. I just did a quick study for a painting I have coming up. But I found this informative and useful. I have not read it cover to cover yet. I need to. But this was well worth it if you can find it. Especially the used book. Now we're getting into pastels. This to me, and I've said it before, sorry, but this one to me is the ultimate book to get if you're doing oil pastels. I'm looking to see if copyright, yes, 2002, so it's an older one. I don't think there's been a new edition of it. I could be wrong. I got this again on Thrift Books. This one is hard to come by, and I grabbed this one at a bargain. I think I paid like $16 for this and another book to make up the difference. But this one, it is just, but it talks about, again, if you're doing plein air with pastels, how to handle them, keep them from melting, how they're made. But it goes over a lot of techniques and uses of pastel with mixed media, how to use washes with a solvent. I like this one. I like it here lately a lot when you can see the brush strokes and how they made it, and not where it's really tight. This is John Elliot. This one, if you get one book on oil pastel, this is the one. This is it. Another one on pastel. This one is just purely landscape. A lot of this, and Albert Handell is considered a master in pastels. I did discover the Anita Louise West, who co-wrote this, is from Kansas, which is where I live. So I thought that was really cool. But you can see, just they're very basic, but this reminds me of Kansas. This just says private collection, so I assume it's by Handell. But there's just, I found the work in here just very inspirational. Again, that looks like a Midwestern sky. And the use of the yellows and the grays and just, 14 by 17. I like knowing the size of it because it gives you helps give me a visual image of what it actually looks like. This was 14 by 15. Again, I see these type of trees here. And so it's I mean, just beautiful work. Just beautiful work. This one was okay. It wasn't, as far as like techniques and things, I wasn't as impressed with as I was with this one. The artwork, of course, in here is beautiful. Anyway, there's that one. The next one I got at a used bookstore in Wichita. I'll be honest, I was not familiar with him. I knew nothing about him. But the fact, when I opened the book and just looked at the artwork, I mean, it was just so vast, the space that he portrayed. And this one is, copyright's 2018 on this one. I mean, just, I believe it said, if you're not familiar with him, as I was not, which I should be ashamed of, but the foreword says he was the most famous and widely discussed American painter from the mid-1850s until the early 1870s. And he's best known for his realistic landscapes. So, there's this. One thing that bothers me, I wish they would give the sizes on that, on the work in any book that they, it's kind of a personal pet peeve though, and this does not give it. But I picture this as just being huge. I mean, look at that. I love looking at these, the sketches that he did for the figures that he put in his work. This mainly documents a trip that he took to Jerusalem. I mean, just look at the painterly quality. Just, it says brush and oil graphite on paper. Wow. And there's a little study, I say. I have no idea. But it's just graphite, brush, and white gouache on a green tone paper. There's another one of the studies that intrigued me. Just getting his ideas down. It's just a nice book, and I want to learn more about him. So, I mean, even the cover, I mean, just, oh. Okay, now I'm going to get into some more used books, but these are on specific artists, again, after the Frederic Church. The rest of these are also on specifics. This is on Monet. We all know Monet. But it's just, I mean, there's the haystacks. There's pictures of him in his studio. I mean, look at this. This is just, I mean, that is just, I mean, look at the brush strokes in that, and the use of color. I kept making that sound when I was in the bookstore too, so I'm afraid of what they thought was going on over in my aisle. But there's that. And another thing this book had that just, I did not realize it till I got it home. I mean, this won't even fit in my, And that's not the only one that's like that. There are others that, for inspiration, this is just amazing. I love this one. The next one is Mary Cassatt. I found it interesting that it was on just oils and pastels. I knew she did pastels, obviously, but some of them I can't tell if they're oils or if they're pastels just by looking at the work themselves. For instance, this one, I've seen this one in person. It is at the Wichita Art Museum, and I even have a postcard of it around here somewhere. But I assume this was on pastel, or this was pastel, but it's actually oil on canvas, and it is rather large. It's 35 by or 35 by 25. Some of these I would love to do master studies of, and this is one of them. There's a pastel. Now see, that one I can obviously tell it's pastel. I don't know why I just assumed this one was, probably just because in my mind that's what she did was pastels. Anyway, I got this at a bargain that was well worth it. This is the last one, and I saved the best for last, in my opinion. I love this book. I purchased this at a used bookstore in Wichita, and at half-price books. This wasn't the most expensive one that I got, but then when I got home and I looked up what it would have cost on Amazon, I was fine. I know I mentioned price a lot, but I know also that we're all on tight budgets. We like to watch where our money goes. If I had to get one, okay, two. It would be this one and the oil pastel book that I said was. But this one is on Lucian Freud. There are pictures of him in here in his studio. There's pictures of his studios. It's just, there's some biographical information, and I'm being careful on what I show because his work does tend to have a lot of nudity. This is an early work, which really surprised me because see how the eyes are very stylistically almond shaped? And that's how all of them were during that time period. All the eyes were sort of, I just found it, I don't know, interesting. Okay, this one, I literally gasped when I saw it. Just the textures and the colors and the brush work. It's just, look at that. I mean, let me go out a little bit. I mean, look at that. It's just, And the same with these. These are dated too. This one was in 56. This one was 57. They all look very somber, but I mean, he even looks slightly in distress to me, and I found it interesting. It's titled A Young Painter. Let me flip through some more of this. This one I'll refer to later on in another picture, but the texture in these just blew me away. I mean, it's kind of meaty, and it's not the smooth porcelain type skin that you usually see. The paintings that I like have a lot of texture, and you can see the brush strokes and are expressive. But these are just, I don't know, they're just amazing. But if you look at this right here, This was done in 1996. When I was flipping through it, looking at the work, Googling it, I assumed this was like the drawing that he did for this one. But this one was done in 1985, and this one was done in 1996. So 11 years later. I found it interesting. This one I marked because it kind of looks like Chevy Chase. It just says Head of an Irishman, 1999. I doubt it's him, but that was the first thing that popped in my head. He did a picture of, or a portrait of Queen Elizabeth. See how small the canvas is? But then when you get a closer look at the piece back here, it's just the way he used the planes of the face and the shadow. It's not the typical painting you'd think you would see of a royal. It is not necessarily the most flattering, but it looks like her. It just has an essence to it. And I was curious about the size of the canvas here. I was curious about the size of the canvas here compared to back here. You know, what was it? Why was he using such small? This was in 2001. This is in 2004. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. There's so much to absorb in this book. It's just amazing. Like I said before, there is some biography information in here. This is him with his grandfather, Sigmund. This is definitely my favorite item, my favorite book I've got right now. Just looking at it makes me want to paint. It's just, even just the cover, it's just beautiful. I'm going to be on the lookout for more by him. So that is all of my books that I've purchased recently. And if you have any questions or suggestions of other books I might be interested in seeing that you've enjoyed, or just want to say hi, just feel free to in the comments below, and I will see you all later. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.